It's President's Day 2013. Still to come, a little history on the holiday that is President's Day and how it's morphed over the years, even in yours and my lifetime. So, Chuck Hagel, President Obama's selection to be the Secretary of Defense in our U.S. federal government. Where is his nomination headed, and why should not he be confirmed? Here's what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say recently.
You're talking about a person whose voting record shows softness on Iran and antagonism toward Israel beyond belief. He'd be the most antagonistic senator toward the state of Israel in history. So the fact that we reported him out Tuesday and they wanted to cloture vote Thursday, to me, was really unreasonable.
Well, joining us to talk about this, David Martosko. He's the executive editor of The Daily Caller, a publication that's actually enlightened us as to some very unsavory things about Chuck Hagel. David Martosko, welcome back to WMAL. Where do we begin to wrap our minds around the person, the would-be Secretary of Defense, Chuck Hagel?
Well, I think you have to understand that there are still some senators who are uncomfortable with this guy, mostly because of his positions on relations with Iran and with Israel. Hagel has a history over the years of appearing at events and saying things in public that would suggest that he is rather soft on Iran, that he favors an approach that is, kind of collaborative. He wants to negotiate with Iran. He wants to be a little bit collaborative with them instead of taking a hard line, especially regarding their nuclear program.
And so that would mean what for U.S. foreign policy? It sounds to me like that would just sort of stoke the fires of the Obama foreign policy. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like any member of the cabinet, the Secretary of Defense is expected to pursue the positions and the priorities of the president. Mm-hmm. So it's not like Chuck Hagel's going to go out there and have his own rogue policy or anything. We have to understand that when he's in place, and I do think he will be confirmed, that he's going to be, following Obama's lead. Now, what that means, we don't know. We're reporting this morning at the Daily Caller that he gave a speech in 2007 at Rutgers University, and he was invited there by a faculty member who had taken an awful lot of money from front groups for the Iranian regime, mm-hmm. and who is actually running for the presidency of Iran right now. So, there's a lot of smoke around this. Nobody has put a smoking gun in Chuck Hagel's hand and, put him as best friends forever with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But there is a lot of smoke around his nomination, and he keeps turning up in the news, connected to characters who are very close to the Iranian regime. And I think if this nomination process were to drag on even longer, mm-hmm. he would find himself with even more problems. So the faster he can get confirmed, I think it's the best for him.
Yeah. David Martosko, he's the executive editor of The Daily Caller. David, another issue that The Daily Caller has been front and center on, while so many of other media outlets have been remiss and asleep, quite frankly, is problems surrounding U.S. Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. I believe your publication, David, was the first to report that there might have been some sex with underage prostitutes with Mr. Menendez during a visit to the Dominican Republic. What can you tell us about this?
Well, we first broke the news back in November. We interviewed two women. They happened to be, of age. They weren't underage prostitutes, but they were prostitutes in the Dominican Republic who said they were paid to have sex with the senator. The story kind of died down as the election came and went. But then in late January, we were the first to report on some allegations that surfaced online. Somebody put a huge cache of documents online, including some emails with an FBI agent and with a producer at ABC News. And these allegations included some from two Spanish-speaking young girls who said they were 16 at the time they began having sex with Senator Menendez for money. Now, it should be clear that these are unconfirmed accusations. The girls have apparently disappeared. Nobody knows where they are. But there's a lot of smoke around this. There are more and more accusations now that we know of 8 specific women, including 2 that we've spoken to, who now say that they were paid to have sex with the senator. And I think it's just a matter of time before there's a smoking gun in this case. And I think the smoking gun will probably be about 5'9", and she'll be blonde.
There you go. David Martosko, he's the executive editor of the D.C. Caller. David, if I understand correctly, now 2 months after the fact, even the Washington Post has begun to say, hey, maybe we've got a problem here. Am I connecting the dots on that correctly?
Yes, and I think that's usually about the right half-life for a scandal involving a Democrat for the New York Times and the Washington Post to start picking up the ball and running with it. But look, these things tend to have taken a life of their own. Remember, it was Andrew Breitbart who broke the scandal on Anthony Weiner, and eventually everybody on the left and the establishment media had to pick up the ball and run with it. It looked silly. It was the National Enquirer that broke the news on Senator John Edwards and his love child and his affair, and eventually everybody had to pick up the ball and run with it. I think we're seeing the same thing here. There are, as far as I know, at least 4 news outlets with reporters staking out various places down in the Dominican Republic right now, digging for answers, and that's a great thing. We broke the story at the Daily Caller, but we certainly don't want to monopolize it. We want people to follow these leads that we've laid out like breadcrumbs, and wherever they lead, they lead.
Well stated, David. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much for joining us. David Martosko, executive editor of the Daily Caller, daring to break the news that a lot of other media outlets choose